Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Newcastle City Council meeting, the regular meeting for February 18th. The time is 7 o'clock. I'm Mayor Clark presiding. This meeting is being broadcast on our YouTube channel. It is also being recorded for future viewing. A reminder before we start, if you are interested in public comment, please sign up on the sheet over on the table. Now please rise and join us for the flag salute. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Quigg.
Here.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lacotia.
Yeah.
And Mayor Clark.
Here.
All here, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Next up is our agenda approval. Are there any additions or alterations desired for tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, show the agenda approved as written. Next up, we have public comment. So the city clerk will hand me the sign-up sheet, and then when I call you up to the podium, please state your name and neighborhood. You'll have 3 minutes to discuss whatever issue is on your mind. The buzzer will sound. At 3 minutes, we ask you to wrap it up, please. Okay. First up, Lisa Johnson. Lisa.
Good evening. My name is Lissa Johnson. I live in Winfield Ridge. I've been submitting comments to the city staff over the past 2 years, and I've been coming to these meetings for over a year begging for your help. I'd first like to mention a couple families that you're used to seeing here that are not here tonight because they are vacationing because it's midwinter break. It's very unfortunate that this meeting had to occur tonight over midwinter break. But I am very touched and pleased that we made it on the agenda. I also have a special message from one neighbor and his family who are currently in China celebrating the new year. Let's see if we can do this. Oh my gosh, come on.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Tony， 这是我太太丽娜和我们的女儿艾琳。我们现在中国庆祝春节，我们自从2018年起就住在Winfield。为了保护我们的孩子们，请在社区里安装防火门，谢谢。
I'm not going to repeat the many reasons why without this gate, my neighborhood would be devastated. We understand why the city employees did what they did. The comp plan at the time encouraged connecting streets. But with phone apps directing traffic, I'm going to ask you all to reach into your hearts and do the right thing. With a gate, everyone gets what they want. Fire trucks and ambulances will have access, as well as pedestrians and bicyclists. And our neighborhood can keep its current scale and feel, which is a major point in the comp plan. And most importantly, we will remain safe. This is a win-win. Everybody gets what they want. Councilwoman Sherlock. Oh, hi. Just making sure you're looking up. Okay. We're both moms of school-aged kids. My first experience with you was when I walked into Hazelwood for my daughter's kindergarten orientation. And you got up there and I was like, thank goodness this woman is running the PTA because she knows what she's doing. Your kids are so fortunate to have a gate in their neighborhood. Just like you, I will do anything to keep my kids safe. Just like you. Please, will you help me keep my kids safe? Councilman Charbonneau, I remember you sharing a story of your friend being hit by a car, so I know you understand the urgency we have in needing to protect our kids. I also know you coach wrestling at Hazen. I'm also a coach. I coach basketball for the Hazen Feeder program, 5th grade girls. Just like you. Well, that was fast. I'm out there several times a week making a difference in kids' lives. Please help me make a difference in my kids' lives too.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Alyssa. Next up, Jeff Johnson.
I'm Jeff Johnson. The good news is I forgot my speech notes, so I'm going to do a nice freestyle here. I know the agenda item this evening is for a traffic study that says in the notes that we'd do a follow-up one in 3 to 4 years to reevaluate the impact in the neighborhood. To me, that's ridiculous. Like, why do we want to wait for a problem when we can resolve it ahead of time? We all know that connected streets can cause problems, increased crime, increased traffic, there's safety concerns. In our neighborhood in particular, getting rid of a cul-de-sac with children that are used to playing out in the street. And also we have a steep slope situation where you come into the neighborhood, it's flat, and then there's a huge drop off where the steep slope is. I grew up in a neighborhood like that, and cars would go super fast, go over the crest of the hill, slam on their brakes, they couldn't see anything. So there's a visibility issue there. A fire gate, I think, is the only solution at this point. I'm assuming it's too late for anything else. I think that would stop the traffic. The emergency vehicles would still have access. It would slow cars down, and the children would be safe. You could still have on both sides of it access for walking trails and bike activities, and it could be opened up for maintenance or whatever other needs there are. So that's what I would hope we could do, and then hopefully I don't have to come back here again, or any of us. And we don't have to keep emailing you guys over and over and over again. Because I feel like with the comprehensive plan changing in this direction to discourage through streets versus encourage them, I feel like if this project was proposed next year, I think things would have went much differently. When the builder proposed the project with cul-de-sacs, it would have been encouraged instead of discouraged. I just don't think there's any way to deal with the traffic with phone apps going with the shortest route. There's no way to tell them not to. Nobody knows how to do that, so it's the only real way. We all use these shortcuts all the time, and I'm just hoping that we don't have to have that problem. So that's what I'm hoping you guys can do for us. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Rella Johnson.
Hello, my name is Rella Johnson. I am a resident of Winfield Ridge. Tonight I am here for 2 reasons. 1, to get a fire gate in my neighborhood, and 2, to let you know that you are destroying the habitat of many animals such as deer, birds, bears, bunnies, eagles, and hawks. You are also destroying the habitat of many amphibians such as frogs, toads, and salamanders. It is no fair to the animals that you are destroying their homes. For weeks I have seen deer in groups of 5 or 6. They have been pushed into the land you are destroying now, and when you destroy it, they will have no home. Now back to the fire gate. I want a fire gate so I have a safe place to play in my neighborhood. You are already destroying the woods and changing my road. The least you can do is give me a fire gate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rella. The next one, it says Bonesy.
Hello, my name is Camden. I am a resident of Winfield Ridge. I want to get it started by saying, hi, City Council, thank you for your time. I want to get a fire gate installed in my neighborhood so we can have a safe place to ride our bikes. If we don't have a fire gate, I won't be able to ride my bikes and play with our neighbors. It won't be a safe place to do anything in our neighborhood without a fire gate. I'm sure at least one of you grew up in a neighborhood that was safe to play in the streets. Imagine if this would happen to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Camden. Beth Herbold. Beth?
Thank you. I'm Beth Herbold. I'm 18 years resident of the Winfield Ridge neighborhood. So again, first, thank you all for your service to the city. I'm just another voice to add to the encouragement that you please consider a fire gate for our neighborhood. I watched my kids grow up in this neighborhood. I hope they spent lots of time riding their bikes in a safe, Cul-de-sac Road. I know we've looked at bringing on a traffic study to consider the traffic implications. We'll have 100 new homes within a half-mile radius going into between Heimstridge and the Dashwood neighborhood that's currently being built. That will all have easier access from Exit 7 to get up to their neighborhoods. As we've talked about, the rideshare apps, all the Uber Eats, the DoorDashes, all of those will have a shorter route through our neighborhood, particularly from Exit 7, because currently right now, you only have 3 ways to get up to Newcastle via Monterey, 76th, and Lake Washington Boulevard. Now you're adding a 4th route through our small neighborhood and not a major route. So I do ask again that you please consider the importance of putting in a fire gate. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Anna Kerr. Anna?
My name is Anna Kerr. My husband Glenn and I live also in Winfield Ridge on Southeast 85th Street, a neighborhood built on a cul-de-sac over 20 years ago. I'm getting over bronchitis, so my apologies for the mask, and talking still tends to make me cough, so I'm going to get straight to the point. We strongly object to our neighborhood becoming a shortcut up and down the hill. Therefore, we're asking, please, to vote in favor of a fire gate on Southeast 85th Street at the connection to the new street. Thank you, each of you, for your service.
Thank you, Anna. Kelly Cushman. Kelly?
Good evening, Kelly Cushman. I do not live in the Winfield neighborhood, but I pass by it on a regular basis, going to and from Risden, Hazelwood, downtown Newcastle. Various things have been brought to my attention as I've driven along this route in the last month since I was here at the last meeting. Where did I go? My biggest question is why? Why do we need this thoroughfare when thoroughfares have already been planned through Newcastle? May Creek and 76 are not busy thoroughfares that are holding a lot of traffic that we need to divert things, divert people. And I don't understand the basic logistics of this. I understand the logistics of tax revenue and then from a $2 million home, but you're also losing tax revenue from the houses that will lose their value due to the fact that they now have a thoroughfare in front of their house. My biggest question is, who are you representing? The people of Newcastle or the developer? When the developer is done with this project, the company will move along and not care what their legacy is. If you want a neighborhood response to help people like having a thoroughfare go through their private neighborhood, you should check with the neighbors off of May Creek who have the connection from May Creek to 116th and how they feel about having this thoroughfare through their neighborhood. I doubt they are happy with it. Jumping back to legacy. Again, you represent this people of Newcastle. What is your legacy going to be? Is your legacy going to be having kids and dogs, or kids play and people walk their dogs and be within a community, or are you going to leave the city council when your time is up, saying that you help the developer instead of your community? A lot of us moved to Newcastle because we want to be a part of the community. By keeping 84th and 85th Road closed with a fire gate, this keeps the part of the community together.
Thank you, Kelly. Sarah Goodman. Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the city council members. So I'm here again tonight, once again, to request your support in saving our little neighborhood, Winfield Ridge, by approving the fire gate as a mitigation plan to the through street. Without the fire gate, our street will become an arterial to I-405 below, which will put our families and most importantly, our children at risk. As has been noted in the past, the neighborhoods of Winfield Ridge, 85th Lane, and White Hawk are all strongly opposed to the 85th Street becoming a through street. Further, I feel it's important to reiterate that most, if not all, of the residents of Winfield Ridge purchased our homes on this street because it was a quiet, dead-end street with a steep slope which had signage telling us it was unbuildable, and this steep slope was unbuildable for 20-plus years. So I continue to wonder what changed to make an unbuildable steep slope suddenly buildable. What remains our only hope for safety for our neighborhood is the fire gate. The fire gate is crucial for our children's and families' safety. At last month's City Council meeting, with a 3-2 vote, the Council approved a resolution 2025-1022 to proceed with the design contract approval for the Newcastle Way widening project. The reason given for the widening project was safety. Per Councilmember Charbonneau's comments, quote, "This is one of several long-term projects we have to improve safety. Safety is something we can always improve. This will make it safer to drive and walk in this area." And Councilmember Sherlock echoed the safety concerns in her comments. The result was the project to widen the Newcastle Way will be, the next steps were in process. And that project will cost taxpayers, when it happens, $13 million. So I ask the council, our elected representatives, elected to protect the people and to preserve the quality of life for Newcastle residents, to please hear us and advocate for us, your constituents, to please show us the same level of concern for our neighborhood and our safety that you showed other city projects. Anything less implies that our safety and the safety of our families and children is less important. I urge the council to approve the fire gate and to protect our community and ensure our safety. And I also want to say what I've been saying all along. If this was your neighborhood, would you be approving this project?
Thank you, Sarah. Next up is Chang Song Lee. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chang Song from Winfield community again. I just would like to share. I bought the house here like 2.5 years back during COVID time. And just like Sarah pointed out, the top reason for me to choose this house in Newcastle is because of it is a quiet and chill, dead end street. And Newcastle overall is lovely and a chill place. So actually at that time we had a lot of other choices, but we chose Newcastle because it makes me feel safe and chill, right? So now I see city plans to do a through street around my community. Actually, I don't fully understand the ROI of it. If you make a through street and there are a lot of traffic, then indeed it will cause a lot of problems for the existing residents. And we do see all the residents, or everyone in my neighborhood, is against this proposal. No one wants a through street. If we do see there are not a lot of use of this street, I don't know the ROI of this proposal because it doesn't make a lot of sense. So now everyone else has expressed a lot of reasons. I don't want to repeat them. My ask is just let's please stop this through street and at least please help us to install a fire gate to prevent the traffic and protect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Liu. Justin?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Liu. My family lives in Winfield Ridge. And so we are here to ask council to vote for the installation of a fire gate for the 113th Street project. And as of now, I think council, all the council members probably heard over 100 times all the reasons my neighbor has stated. I don't want to repeat it, but I just want to mention an example. And for this kind of project, the turnaround installing on 116th Avenue. Before that turnaround installed, my family got waked up in the middle of night. I mean, fairly often by the racing cars and bikes going down 116th Street. And after turnaround, I can't remember the last time I heard those noise. So those kind of projects can benefit the community. All the families around those streets for the many years. And we truly appreciate this kind of effort. And I know Jim mentioned, it will cost a lot, but for the whole community, for the benefit of all the communities around this project, we would appreciate the council can approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. I am told we have Zoom public comment speakers tonight. Is that correct? One? Okay, can you bring him on in, Director Bruns, or him or her?
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Kendra Simmons. So I have spoken in front of you all on a couple of different occasions and also to the planning committee as well. So first, I definitely want to thank you for your service and your support of our community. And I stand by my neighbors on 85th Street that I am also opposed to a through street for the many reasons that myself, my neighbors have stated, my husband Kevin Kirkaldie has stated in prior meetings, my daughters Savannah and Adeline Kirkaldie have stated from a safety standpoint primarily. And if that is no longer a viable option, to stop the through street, then the second best option for our family would be the installation of a fire gate. So I'm just pleading with you to help support our neighborhood in this regard so that we can continue to feel safe in our neighborhood, for our kids to be able to play safely on the streets and in the cul-de-sac. And for this not to greatly impact the appreciation of our house values as well. Thank you.
Do we have any more, Director Bruns? Okay, all right. That concludes then the first public comment. There'll be a chance at the end of the meeting to make additional comments, and there is a sign-up sheet for that. All right, we have no ceremony or presentations tonight. Next up is council comment. Councilmember Sherlock, why don't you start us out?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start by just saying thank you to Councilmember Burford and the wonderful team that put on an amazing Lunar New Year event last weekend, or lost track of time, whenever that was, February 9th. Last Sunday, thank you. It was really a huge success, and we had a lot of volunteers, and the Arts Council did a fabulous job. But Councilmember Burford, this is your event, and we really appreciate you bringing that to our community. I just also wanted to say that and let you all know with the help of City Manager Pingle and our lobbyist, I successfully testified for House Bill 1694, which is about REIT, real estate excise tax, being able to use that money for more for affordable housing projects outside of Newcastle. So we can't currently do that. So that's on our legislative agenda. So I got on Zoom and testified, and I think that's going well. And then yesterday I went down to Olympia for Children's Day. Our new representative Zahn has children that are out of the home, so she invited me to bring my kids down, and they got to actually vote on the floor, which is really cool. And I would love to help other kids in our community do that in the future. It was a pretty neat experience. So thank you to Representative Zahn and Representative Tai for inviting us down. I'm not super prepared to address all the public comments tonight. We do plan to have a robust discussion about this topic, and I think it's appropriate to have that discussion. I do appreciate everyone showing up as usual. I know it's hard to get up and talk, and I am listening to everyone. I'm taking a lot of notes, and thank you for coming.
Councilmember Burford.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all the neighbors and including children from Winfield Ridge neighborhood. Also, thank you for your emails, and I have heard you, and I do hope we will come up with a solution. And I know we're going to have a study done by professionals. I really hope. Later, working together, I hope we can find a workable solution. And also, I'd like to take this moment to thank everyone who, including all the council members. I want to say our Mayor Clark and Council Member Sherlock, Council Member Greenfin, Council Member Quigg, and Council Member Charbonneau. They all showed up at our Newcastle's Lunar New Year celebration. We first had this citywide celebration in Aegis Gardens. During the pandemic, we had 600 plus participants. It was a huge success. People say I orchestrated that event, but I'm so grateful with our city's involvement and everybody. It takes a village to put up this event. I'm so grateful with the support from Senator Patty Murray. She wrote a letter for our event, and also King County Council Member Regan Dunn's significant support and presence. Also, King County Executive Office Representative James Bush also came on, including also King County Council Member Claudia Balducci. They also gave King County's proclamation, and also for all the volunteers, and also for all the performers. It's really heartwarming to hear all the positive feedback, including engaging, stage performances and activities, and also including food trucks, and also with our police chief also came and support us, and also our Newcastle Fire Department, Bellevue Fire Department, Station 9, their officers also came. I just want to once again thank you, everyone. Events like this remind me that cultures, communities, and celebration matters, and also so let's work together so to make sure everyone feels a sense of belonging. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. Thank you folks for being here tonight. I think it's always a great thing when more folks come and engage in government. I know someone said, I hope you never see me again, but I would love to see people again and more people attending council meetings. Love the signs too. Not entirely sure what the one on my far right with the shape exactly means, but I'd love to hear about that afterwards.
Okay, I want to answer it. That means a door in Chinese character, or means a gate. Yeah, so that's the approach. Yeah, gate or door, 门 in Chinese.
Thank you. I always appreciate learning something while I'm up here. Additionally, so selfishly wanted to share, I'm very proud of the 13 wrestlers I coached that qualified for the state tournament this Thursday and Friday at the Tacoma Dome. Big shout out to the girls team we had at Hazen High School that was consistently ranked top 10 in the state all year, and as the top team in King County. No one tried to contact me Thursday or Friday. I will be very occupied. I wanted to also share, thank you, Councilmember Burford, for all your hard work into the Lunar New Year event. I attended with my girlfriend. I actually wanted to share something because I found, I learned from attending the event, I saw a lot of young, I saw a lot of Asian American families with their young kids there. And something that my girlfriend wrote about when she posted about this event, sharing photos she had taken, she said, I think it's very important to celebrate this diversity in our communities, but also for first generation kids to experience and learn about their roots. Growing up as a Filipino American, I've always had issues with my own cultural identity and asking what it was. I know a young version of myself would have loved to experience something like this. I'm happy we're able to put on events like this, and know I could bring my future kids to events like this and know they're not severed from what their, the experience their own immigrant parents had as they moved to America and chased that dream. Happy Lunar New Year. So I think that was really impactful. I know we've said a lot about it, but I just wanted to share that. And then I would be remiss not to mention something I thought was really worth highlighting, See Click Fix, which is a great program that our staff engages with if a tree is down, if there's something that needs work. I've had folks tell me about bees near the park before. A lot of times folks will come to council members with individual items like that, whereas I'm not the one who has the machinery and the folks to, and the technical capacity to deal with that. But there were 631 reports in 2024 and a 58% increase over the past year. So I want to plug that to folks here and just applaud our staff for doing that. And I think I really just wanted to call out to, I appreciate Mrs. Johnson making the comment earlier about how recognizing that in this process that staff were doing, were going about doing their jobs. I know earlier in sort of this process that we had, I know there have been conversations and there have been sort of call outs of different city staff members. And I would just really urge people that whatever, we get passionate about these issues, we can have these conversations that are really meaningful. You can be mean to me as much as you would like. I'm used to it, but please, 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 the other non-elected folks up here are hardworking city staff members who are doing their job and doing their job to the best of their ability. I hope we can all be respectful and not go after those individuals in the future when we engage in city government. So, thank you.
Councilmember Quigg.
I'm going to echo what Councilmember Charbonneau just said. Well said in terms of respecting the fact the city staff are doing their jobs. That was highlighted. Paul pointed out, there's no reason to question anybody's motives. We're all doing the best we can, especially that gal right there holding the gate sign. Oh my Lord. The people back at home that are maybe watching this on Zoom or are going to watch this on YouTube, there's a crew of kids and adults back there holding these signs, and I don't know how their arms haven't fallen off yet. So bravo to you, especially Chang, your wife. She's held up that gate sign for, I think it's been 32 straight minutes, strongest arms in Newcastle. Speaking of people behind the scenes, the Lunar New Year Festival was insanely effective, full of people. It was weird standing up there, like right now it's kind of weird, everybody's staring at me talking, so I'm up there on the stage. But what really happened, as you know, for hours beforehand was Nathan Sticks was there hanging up signs. Amy George was running around, hooking things up, getting food set up. So, and Kelly, I see you back there. Cushman, she was, the last time I saw that many people there was the Risdon Night Market, where she had like hundreds of parents going around selling trinkets so their kids could feel like little, business people. It was just the coolest thing. So even though we get all the accolades and the awards and get to, get pictures taken, it's really the people behind the scenes. So that being said, here's my ask. Go to the Chamber website and nominate some people for some awards. Go to the Chamber website and if you know somebody that's behind the scenes that's working their tail off to try to do, bake sales and, trying to help their families or help their kids, by all means, nominate them. Because I wish those people got more attention than we did up here. That's it. Thanks.
Councilmember Griffin.
Got to turn down now. I really appreciate the folks showing up tonight. Makes me almost want to continue and have you guys come every week because it's nice to have people to talk to out there. And we're going to miss you if you don't come. So I would invite you to come anyway in the future and listen to what we've got to do. Maybe we'd have some things that were important to you show up on our agenda other than just what you're suffering through now. I really appreciate it, and thank you for coming.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I also want to thank you all for your comments and those posters, holding up those posters. And I'm very, very impressed by our young leaders And pretty soon, they just have to wait for a few years and we'll be seeing them on the other side of the podium. We are going to have a big discussion on this project, and I just want to assure you that, you know, if a gate is feasible, then I would be very supportive of that. So we are here for you guys, for the citizens of Newcastle, and we want to support you in whatever way we can. So thank you.
Okay, mayor's report. I don't have anything to report other than I'll echo thank you all for coming tonight. It is good to see a full house, so we appreciate that. We work for you, so we want to see you here. Next up, we have our police chief who's going to give us a quarter four police report. So Chief Kajuhiro, come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Chief Kajuhiro, I have Detective Corey Martin sitting back there and our crime analyst, Glory Lara, back there. So I'm gonna start off, first slide. So this is our crime data. It's compiled by our sector program, which is our program that collects our what we use for action reports and citations. Also, our crime analyst from the King County Sheriff's Office compiled all these stats. And these are reporting select crimes on here. You should have the annual report that I gave to the city manager, so you should have that with all the different types of crimes. Next slide. Okay, so the three categories is crimes against person, homicide, sex offenses, kidnapping, and assaults of all levels. Crimes against property, which includes burglary, fraud, vandalisms, and thefts. Also robberies in that category. And crimes against society is drug offenses, prostitution, and like weapons violations. Next. Okay, crimes against property. 2024, we dropped down to 381 total reported, I guess, reports or crimes, which is the lowest since I counted in 2022. So it was 424 in 2022, 2023 was 449, and it dropped down to 381. Crimes against persons was 60 in 2022. 53 in 2023, and in 2024 it was 50. Crimes against society was 5 in 2022, 2 last year, 2023, and 6 last year, 2024. Next. Okay, assaults. This includes domestic violence crimes and other types of assaults. 2022 was 31. Then went down to 22 in 2023, and then 2024 is 21. Vehicle thefts. Our goal was to reduce vehicle thefts because we had a big spike in last year with 84 in 2023. This year we brought it down to, I would say 2024, we brought it down to 62. And burglaries is another one. We worked hard on doing area checks and patrols to see if we can get that down. It was 53 in 2022, 48 in 2023, and last year was 35. Those numbers is combined with commercial burglaries and residential burglaries. So 18 residential burglaries last year and 17 commercial burglaries. Okay, shoplifting. We had 1 in 2022. Then we started encouraging people, the retailers, to report their shoplifting. So we had 17, and then we had 28 last year. 6 of those of the 28 was from a shoplift emphasis. And right now, our retailers are focusing on other areas, so we're just waiting on them to see when we can conduct another emphasis. Auto parts, taken from auto. So was 44 in 2022, 2023 is 31, and went to 23 in 2024. And larcenies taken from autos. So auto parts is like Cadillac converters, things taken from the car. Taken from auto is somebody broke into the car. So it's 77 in 2022. 2023 was 56 and 74 last year. So the combined total of that in 2022 was 121. It was 87 in 2023, and last year was 97. Arrest. 2022 we had 71 arrests, then we had 66, and then last year we had 83 arrests. That includes adults, juveniles, all categories. Traffic citations. We had 1,070 in 2022, then 962 last year. This year we had 855. Collisions, 2022 we had 89, 75 in 2023, and 92 last year. Of those, in those numbers, the injury collisions could be like just complaint of pain or something like that, or it could be a fatal accident because we had one. In 2022 we had 18, 23 we had 25, and then last year we had 19. Dispatch calls for service. We went from 1912 in 2022. 2023 we had 1925, and last year we had 1,746 dispatch calls for service. So if you look at the next page, this is the comparisons for calls for service. We had an 18% increase in officer on views compared to last 2023's numbers. So it went from 747 to 879 on views. And on views is like house checks, business checks, area checks, traffic stops, self-initiated activity. And dispatch calls for service was 482 in 2023, and in 2024 it was 457. So it was a 5% decrease. Next page. Okay, this is for the whole year. For comparisons for calls for service and on views. We had a 74% increase in officer on views, self-initiated activity. From 2023, we had 2,909. Last year, we had 5,054. Dispatch calls for service went down 9%. In 2023 was 1,925 to last year 1,746. Next page. And this here is just a breakdown of from the different quarters of the on views. As you can see, we went from 1,300 in the first quarter, 1,661. That's when we had the auto theft emphasis. We had officers focusing in all the areas where we were getting the most auto thefts. So that number was the highest during quarter two. Then we had 1,214 and down to 879 in the fourth quarter. Majority of those was area checks. 2,714 of them was area checks. Then traffic stops was 520. Next, I'm going to call up Detective Martin. He's going to give his detective update. Corey, you want to come up here?
Good evening, Corey Martin, Newcastle Police Department. We don't have to go through each of the synopses for the case numbers, but overall, domestic violence was up for the fourth quarter in the city. Some of the cases were filed by patrol deputies as well as myself, and then also major crimes detectives through the sheriff's office. Can we go to the next slide, please, sir? Yeah. Same. So a lot of the relationships were spouse. There were some siblings, and as well as a parent versus an adult child. That one was probably the more involved one, with some search warrants written for cars to recover some property. But Project Be Free was offered in, I think, pretty much all of the cases as a city resource. Go ahead, sir. Yeah, that was that one. Next slide. Cool. All right. Thanks.
I just want to add one more thing to that Casey he just highlighted. King County's Susie Crow, she's our mental health professional. She was called out to help Detective Martin on that case to get the person, the suspect in that case, some help. So, okay, so some highlights what we did. We did attended block watch meetings at the Reserve. I think we did several of those. We had a crime prevention meeting at the Trio Apartments. The Public Safety Committee attended with us. That wasn't really well attended. I think had more of us than the residents, but you know, we tried. And we had several meetings with the Public Safety Committee during that time in the fourth quarter. Next. Battle of the Badges. That was a true community event. This was our second year. Unfortunately, we didn't win a trophy like we did before, but we had volunteers from Eden Church, Regency at Newcastle helped out, Tapatio Restaurant, Girl Scout Troops, Cub Scout Pack. A couple of them helped out. Chris and Robin Brown, Councilman Quigg helped out as Buddy the Elf, and we had Nico Jones. They all helped out. It was a community event, and it was fun. It was windy, cold, rainy, and was fun. Next, training. There's 4 of us, including, I guess we're going to include Gloria on there too. So there's 5 of us going to be heading down to the Vehicle Crimes Conference. It's an Auto Theft Investigators Conference in Wenatchee. And the lodging, registration, the cost for that was sponsored by the Washington Auto Theft Prevention Authority. So that's why we could send a lot of us to this conference. So that would be next month. Next. Officer of the Quarter, Deputy Felix Candelario. We selected him for the 4th quarter, Officer of the Quarter. During this time, you know, he had several on-view arrests, including a vehicle theft arrest that was connected to a prior, I guess, attempted vehicle theft. And then he saw the suspect vehicle ended up to be stolen. He arrested them. He also had identified a larceny suspect from the YMCA, and that person was charged. He issued 55 citations, and he gave multiple warnings during that time. So he was awarded Officer of the Quarter. Next, Sundays with a Cop. So everybody with kids, especially, you guys should come to Sundays with a Cop. There should be a good time. It's on March 9th at Frosty Barrel, noon to 2 p.m. I think they're doing $5 Sundays again. So if you guys interested in hanging out with the police and having ice cream, sure, come by. Next up is something we're doing a little different. We have an in-person business watch, neighborhood block watch, but also we're including the, what do you call that, dog walker watch and dog walker watch also in this too. So my whole intentions was I wanted the community to meet the business owners, and also have an opportunity to talk to the police at the same time, ask questions and stuff like that. So both a networking with us and with neighbors. So that'll be at the Coleman, April 3rd at 5 p.m. One more thing I did not include on here, because we just got the notice, but we were awarded a $3,000 grant to purchase a LiDAR equipment for speed enforcement. So, yep. Any questions?
Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. First is real quick, obviously not happy that domestic violence has increased, but I wanted to commend you, Chief, for the partnering with Project Be Free, and I was gonna ask if folks were getting referred there, but Detective Bard answered that, so I think it's really great that you brought forward that those domestic violence sort of subject matter experts and that folks can be referred there now as we're seeing an increase in those cases, unfortunately, but I think that's really good work, so commend you for doing that. So the larger question I had was, I'm fortunate to sit through, a lot of the different quarterly crime update reports, and something I'm always wondering is, I think we have a sort of a 3-year snapshot with a lot of these metrics, right? And I'm something that I continually try to parse is, okay, which of these fluctuations are statistically sort of significant versus what's not, right? So maybe like crimes against society, for example, 5 one year, 2 another year, 6 another year, maybe that's not statistically significant. Maybe property crimes going from 424 to 449 to 381 over the last 3 years, maybe that is more significant. I guess I would love to see in future presentations, maybe if you're open to trying maybe a longer year snapshot or something of the nature, to see maybe trends over time, I'd definitely be interested in relative to just a 3 window. I don't know how hard that data is to get. But yeah, feel free to speak to it. I guess just I want to understand the work you do to how to better support you. So understanding what is statistically significant from this format, if there's any potential ways to like highlight or kind of underscore that more, if you understand it. Sorry if that's a little over the place.
There you go.
And I did see our data person here, so I was like, okay, maybe
You want to explain why we do 3 years?
Hi, Gloria Lara, crime analyst. So yeah, we do the 3-year snapshot just because it's more recent years. More recent years were way higher than previous years. While we can see the overall trend, in terms of statistically significant, might be a little hard because the ends are very low for Newcastle, but we'll definitely take a look and do some weighted thresholds and see, what's a little bit higher and not as normal for Newcastle. Yeah, we can take a look.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments for the chief? I got a couple, Chief. Thank you. First of all, how's our flock cameras doing? Have we made any successful use of them, or what's the update?
Yes. I don't have the exact numbers, but we have solved burglary. Yeah, we solved burglaries, a couple burglaries in Bellevue. We had, one was in Bellevue, one was up in the reserve. The case I was talking about with Deputy Candelera making the on-view arrest, that was because of a flock camera. And there's numerous others that we, what you call that, there we go, right there, this first one right here with the stolen vehicle recovery. We had others that we identified suspects through it and made arrests. So, and Gloria can maybe speak a little bit more because she uses it, I think, a lot more than we do, and how valuable flock cameras are, so.
Yeah, I use it daily, not only to support Newcastle, but to support other agencies. We always get requests, and if it's related to cases that we're working on, we'll look those up and share that information with every other agency. Like Chief mentioned, we helped solve the burglaries at the reserve. Those are all connected to the burglaries in Bellevue. So we made great arrests there. Yeah, we recently assisted Bellevue in looking for the 2 donkeys as well, the miniature donkeys. I don't know if anybody saw it on the news, but we assisted them with that as well. And yeah, it's a great tool. It's really valuable and will help drive your numbers down.
Thank you. Oh, just a second. Yeah, well, as a follow-up to that, Chief, so unfortunately our Shell station over there got busted in again yesterday, and so disappointing to hear. Is there any, I mean, they have cameras there and now we have the Floxes. Do you think we'll have a chance to finally catch one of these jerks that does this to the Shell station?
I don't think we had a chance to look at the video or anything like that, but there is a chance if we could see the video and there's a vehicle. It'll be nice to have more cameras because that camera we have pointed there is capturing one direction of cars. I believe it's going into the city. It does capture cars coming out of the city, but it more focuses on the ones coming into the city at that point. But yes, there's a chance that could catch.
Okay, my last question is how's staffing? What's the prospects for staffing? I know we're still short.
Well, we are full staff at 12. Right now, I am down 4 officers because 1 officer is on leave, and he's not slated to come back until close to the end of March. And I had 1 resign from the sheriff's office. So we are at 4 vacancies right now.
Okay, so we typically are 10, hoping for more. You think we'll get back to 10 soon? I mean, you get number 9 in March.
That's my hope. I have 1 transfer request in. Not sure, I can't guarantee when that person is coming. But we have 1 transfer we requested. So.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councilmember Sherlock.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up on the flock cameras. Can you remind me, how many do we have currently? And
We have 6 cameras currently.
and did we contract for 6 or do we contract for more?
No, we have 6 cameras total.
And that's all that we've
That's all that we
agreed to
contract.
so
Yes.
far?
Yes.
Okay. And they're all just placed on the outskirts of town?
No, we have some on Coal Creek, Newcastle Way, and then down on the outskirts.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief.
Okay,
Appreciate your time. Okay, next on the agenda, year-end financial report. Director Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tonight, I plan on, hopefully you've had a chance to review this, so I plan on just highlighting a few things from the report that I wanted to bring to your attention. So starting off with general fund revenues, we ended the year a little over 200,000 over budget, which was amazing. We had a really strong second half of the year, so a lot of those items that were kind of trailing caught up. One thing to really highlight is our development revenue came in really strong. We had almost $300,000 over budget, so that was a huge portion of that increase that we had, along with investment interest, which came in really strong. One thing to note, the miscellaneous, if you're looking at those numbers compared to third quarter, it actually went down, and that's because we did the interfund reconciliation. If you recall, the interfund service charge was a new thing that we added for 2024, and so one of the pieces of that revenue source is that at the end of the year, we have to reconcile that against the actual expenditures that were made. So in the case of 2024, everything across all of the funds was underspent based on budget, and so that brings down both the amount that gets allocated from general fund and then the corresponding revenue coming into general fund. So for 2024, that was a total of $245,067 that we initially transferred into general fund and then had to correct back to those other funds for that reason. But even with that being said, we still had really strong general fund revenue. One of the things that we're watching, and we've also adjusted in the 2025 budget and forecast, are cable TV franchise fees. We've seen those continually go down year over year, with the assumption that more people are cutting the cable services and they're paying for other things like streaming services. So we're continuing to watch that. It did come in under budget for the year. So that's just one of those items that we're looking at. And again, we adjusted for the new year budget. Investment interest, as I mentioned, came in. It was over $125,000 over what we budgeted, and that's even after making the change to allocate the investment interest across all the funds evenly. General fund still had a really good performance in the year, and one of the things that we're working on for 2025, goal for the finance department, is to establish a longer-term portfolio for the city's investment earnings, so that we can take the rates that we're seeing right now and hopefully extend that out over the next couple of years. Even if we see the federal funds rate dip down, we can lock those rates in. So that's one thing that we're actively working on right now, and we'll have some information to discuss with the finance committee at our next meeting. And then once that's shared, we'll share it with the full council as well. So again, in the miscellaneous category, as I mentioned, this dropped because of the interfund reconciliation, but still good overall. On the expenditure side for general fund, all the departments were under budget for the year, which is great. And I want to give credit to staff. We've asked them to be really intentional with their spending and what they're choosing to do. And I think they've answered that well. They've done what they can. We did have some savings with having positions that went unfilled, but a lot of it also has to do with staff just following through with that and really thinking about what they're doing as they're moving about their day and what they're purchasing. So thank you to all the city staff for their work on that part. All said and done, general fund expenditures were over $1.2 million under what we initially budgeted. So a good chunk of that is the unfilled positions, like I had just mentioned. And then we also have another $244,000 in savings that's related to some of the development stuff. And when we look at general fund balance, so the revenues over expenditures, we saw the fund balance increase just over $1 million from what we budgeted, which is great. That means we have that $1 million that's now going to carry forward in the fund balance into 2025, and we'll see that show up as available funds. And I know that's one thing we'll want to talk about when we bring up the sustainability model, is looking at that additional fund balance that we now have and what we can do with it. The total ending fund balance, including this increase for general fund, is now just over $7.5 million, including all of the different fund balance classifications, and 6.4 of that is the unassigned fund balance, meaning it's not already set aside or restricted for another use. And then looking at our other funds, as I mentioned, all of them were under budget from what we anticipated, which was great. I know street fund was an issue for us last year, and this year staff did a really good job of getting invoices in more quickly than we were in previous years, communicating with some of the vendors that we had some issues with, and just staying on top of what was going on within the street fund. So it ended up being $33,000 under budget for the year. And it wasn't an issue for us at the end of the year. We also, you'll see that street fund had no change in fund balance, and that's because what we did throughout the years, as the street fund had a deficit, meaning 1 month whatever was spent that we didn't have enough revenue for, we would take that shortage and transfer that out from cumulative reserve and then general fund. So that meant we only transferred out of those funds what we had to instead of the full amount that was budgeted. So that kept some money in general fund as well. Overall, they all had fund balance changes that were less than what we had budgeted. And so they're all going to have additional fund balance monies carrying forward into the next year. Some of this is going to get used by projects that are going to be carried forward that either were delayed or just intentionally postponed to a future year. But then a good amount of it will remain in that fund balance for future use. Looking at our cash balances, we have just over $22 million as of the end of the year. There's not quite $1 million that we have in the operating account to cover outstanding payments and checks that are going out. And then the remainder currently is invested in our LGIP account. And then we'll look to move a good portion of that into a longer term portfolio and retain at least a couple million in LGIP for cash flow use as needed. So to wrap it up, I just wanted to say again, the sustainability model, we are working on updating that to share with all of you. We have the 2024 actuals entered in there. We have the 2025 and forecasted years matched to what we adopted in the 2025 budget for the time being. And then we can make changes as we move forward, but we wanted to get a good baseline. And then the last piece is just to refine some of the revenue options that we're including in there for possible discussion. So once those numbers are in there and we feel good about it, we'll plan to share it with all of you and then look to see if we want to have a future discussion, whether it's in a study session or otherwise, to talk about some of those options. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Any questions for Director Chambers? I see none.
Okay,
You're
thank
very
you.
thorough. You put us all speechless. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Council committees. Any council committee reports? Nope, no committee reports. Regional committees. Seeing none, okay. In your package, there's a CAC council report. I won't read it, but you can look at it. And for the members of the public, if you want to see all the information that Director Chambers just provided, it is online in our financial report. It's in the meeting minutes for this meeting. Next up is City Manager has an update for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a couple of things tonight. I did want to just briefly mention about real estate excise tax as far as the current legislature is concerned. As Councilmember Sherlock mentioned, we testified last week on the bill put forward by our legislative delegation. Representative Tai is the sponsor for HB 1694. As far as I understand, that's likely going to be rolled into changes being made through House Bill 1791. That bill is great for us as well as far as looking for flexibility with the use of REIT. And so REIT is real estate excise tax. And really what the two things accomplish for us are, as we got into COVID, the legislator made just a time frame adjustment that allowed us to use REIT for maintenance and preservation costs, but only through the end of 2023, and then that flexibility went away. 1791 takes the dates out of that flexibility and makes them perpetual, which would allow us, right now it'll be, there'll be a limit. I think right now it's $100,000 or 25% of REIT revenue would be able to be used for maintenance and preservation costs. And then the bill that our legislative delegation put forward was specific to affordable housing. So the way what's in the current REIT statute allows REIT to be used for affordable housing, but dictates that it has to, those projects, affordable housing projects would have to be in a 6-year capital facilities plan. But we work on affordable housing through our membership in ARCH. And so we don't have a 6-year capital facilities plan for affordable housing projects. And so That bill would simply allow for how we do affordable housing with our regional coalition. And so both bills would be great. And really what we're looking for and pushing the legislature to allow us for flexibility in REIT so that we can take general fund costs and remove them from the general fund. And then just a reminder, the next 2 days, tomorrow and Thursday, is City Action Days. I'll attend, and Councilmember Burford is attending. And then I did just want to note, for everybody's benefit, the CAC report is in the packet. And part of what they did was for several years, their position numbers for the commission have been 3 through 9, reserving the first 2 seats for youth positions, but there was nothing ever that dictated that. And so they went ahead and renumbered their seats from 3 through 9 to 1 through 7. And they were specific about making sure 3 is now 1, 4 is now 2, and so on. But just so that was a small thing, but worth noting as those positions come up for either being re-upped or putting it out to the public, they'll be different than they were the last time they were up. Sorry.
Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Just real quick, are those youth positions something that are still filled or could be filled if there's interest?
So so the city council policies contemplate a single youth position, but it would be, it's a non-voting position. And so if we want to add youth seats again or youth members again, we could either not give them a seat number or we can add them on the back of 7.
Okay, I did have a young woman from Liberty High School that wanted to get involved, so I'd love to, if there's the opportunity, I'd love to forward that to her.
Yep, and I know the CAC is looking at that. They would like to involve the youth as well. So,
Councilmember Sherrill?
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that. Chair Sticks from the CAC kind of gave, because I was asking about that when the CAC came to meet with us, and he gave me some background that it sounds like the YMCA, the Coal Creek YMCA and the library used to partner and have a committee, and the acronym is NICE, NYCE, and I can't think of, I think it's Newcastle Youth Committee something, engagement maybe? Anyway, the point is they were the ones that were really recruiting for those positions and for several years. And it sounds like COVID really kind of did a number on that group. And now the CAC has reached out and asked if that could get resurrected. And it sounds like right now there's just not capacity from the Y or the library right now, but I'm very interested in finding a way to get youth on the CSC in the future. So just an update.
We don't weigh in on that. The CAC can just make the decision on their own, right? We don't have to weigh in.
So if the only reason that the council would need to get involved is if you decide you really want to, or if we think that some adjustment to the CAC would need to include a change to the council policies, just because the council policies also dictate how the planning commission and CAC are put together, and then kind of their overarching rules and mission. And so if we were going to make an adjustment either to Newcastle Municipal Code that talks about how they operate, or the council policies, then the council would need to get involved as far as approving what they're changing. But the numbering from 3 to 9 was never done by a council action, and so renumbering didn't need to be done by a council action either.
Any other questions, Councilmember Burford?
Yeah, I attended the CAC's meeting the entire time. I witnessed they renumbered right from move from position 1 to 7, and it sounded like they would like to see youth engagement, involvement.
Okay.
And I want to say thanks really all the CAC members for their service and the volunteer. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Just one thing finally on legislative. We all, I assume all of us got this message today, email from the AWC about Senate Bill 5184 restricting parking. It's really discouraging and disappointing to see some of the stuff coming out of Olympia. And this bill would restrict parking, or in other words, allow people to build without having to have parking. And there's different levels of that for the size of buildings. So I would encourage people to contact your legislators and say, you know, enough's enough. Let the cities like us control our own destiny. Home rule was the original concept in Washington, but it's being just crushed by really crazy stuff coming from Olympia. So please pay attention to what bills are out there and testify. You know, anybody from the public can call and write and so on. So that's my 2 cents. Okay, anything else, City Manager? Are you done?
Can I just make a, maybe just for the public, we have a lot of people here, maybe just for everybody's benefit, just to kind of add on to what the mayor just said. So there's a lot of things that we might agree or disagree with that Olympia does, but what we disagree with all the time is when they're going to take it out of the city's hands. And so they're going to, when they dictate stuff to the city that should be the city's decision and our residents' decisions to make. And so even if you agree with what the state's trying to do, but they're trying to force it on us, we disagree with that. That's all.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any desired additions, or excuse me, any desired changes to the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, show the consent agenda approved as written. There are no public hearings. There's no unfinished business. We are to our one general business item, discussion of the Thule Development Traffic Monitoring Plan. Who's going to, Director Bronze, are you?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, Aaron and I are going to kind of co-present, but I'm going to take the lead here. I'm not sure, let me get this out of the way here. Wanted to thank Erin for, she did the majority of the work on the slides, so I appreciate that effort. Okay, so just kind of a brief overview of what we're going to talk about for you there. So just the information's more detailed in the packet, but essentially during the public comment period when the plat was in preliminary plat review, the hearing examiner added a condition, and this is a part of that, but I'll read the full for everybody's benefit here. The condition is the applicant shall prepare, and the applicant here is the developer, shall prepare a traffic monitoring plan subject to City Public Works approval that monitors the impact of the required street connection between Southeast 85th Street to 113th Avenue Southeast. The purpose of the monitoring plan shall be to gauge whether the connectivity creates any appreciable amount of pass-through traffic from travelers who don't live in the vicinity. The results and the conclusions of the monitoring plan shall be tabulated in a report that is distributed to persons who have requested a copy. The applicant shall be made to fund its proportionate share as determined by Public Works of monitoring and of any traffic calming improvements necessary to mitigate the traffic impacts of the street connection. Public Works may require security, which is a bond, for the payment of such estimated proportionate share responsibility at the time the monitoring plan becomes due, and the monitoring plan shall be completed prior to final plat approval. So there's some words in there that are not defined, and those are what's on the screen here. It talks about the purpose is to gauge whether the connection creates any appreciable amount of pass-through traffic from travelers who don't live in the vicinity. Well, neither of those two terms are defined. So appreciable amount, that's a common, there's a term that means significant. Essentially, if you look up what's the definition of appreciable amount, that's significant. So one of the things that we are looking at is possibly to use SEPA thresholds. That's established in state law of what an appreciable amount is. But that's still, it's not defined. And then the vicinity, that's not defined either. But we've initially thought that anybody that's already on one of the adjoining arterials, meaning either 116th Avenue Southeast or Monterey, if they're already on that road and they divert to Southeast 85th or 113th, and that would be considered pass-through traffic. So that just comes into play when the monitoring plan is enacted to follow through. So we're going to stop there on the monitoring plan and just go into the current conditions and the future conditions. So just to orient everybody, the project site there is in the yellow. The city limit is that red line, and we've got our two main arterials that I just mentioned, 116th north-south to the east of the project site, and Monterey Place southeast, which connects down to I-405 and also May Creek Park Drive to the west. And then zooming in on the project site, we have 85th Street, which is the Winfield Ridge neighborhood, and it's parallel to Southeast 85th Lane, and then 113th Avenue to the west. And here's just another look highlighting the specific existing and future developments. White Hawk is to the west and south, Winfield Ridge to the north, and then the 113th Newcastle, which is also Toole. Toole was the original development. Like a lot of other developments, it's the name of somebody who used to own the property, but now the official title, project title is 113th Newcastle. But in effect, they're interchangeable. So just some aspects of their approved engineering design. So the through street there connecting from 113th to the west up through extending Southeast 85th Street, and then 85th, Southeast 85th Street to the below will be combined. The two parallel roads will be combined into one. And then the traffic calming element that is in the plans right now is a speed cushion, about a third of the way between 114th and 116th. And then just another feature to call out is the grade from 114th down to 113th is quite steep. It's 15%, and that's also a reduced street width. It's 24 feet instead of the standard width of 28 feet. So just some of the counts that are out there. And these are all based on, there's a manual, ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, and they publish a trip generation manual. I think they're in their 10th or 11th edition. And the thing is 2 volumes about 3 inches thick each. And there's hundreds of reports that go out and measure traffic generation. And something like single family homes, their trip generation rates are very accurate because there's so much data. If it was an isolated Starbucks with 2 drive-throughs, that's not a good example, but they have some things that are very unique land uses like a cemetery or a drive-through liquor store or something like that. These are all these categories of land uses that are in this manual, but residential homes are the one that has the most data out of the whole manual.
Sorry, listen, no comments. Yeah, thank you.
So existing trips, Winfield Ridge has 13 single-family homes, and that equates to 130 daily trips. And this is based on the trip generation manual that it's just under 10 trips per home. And then Southeast 85th Lane, there's 4 existing homes, so that's 38 trips. Go ahead, Erin, please.
I was just going to say the 4 existing homes are the 3 on their independent lots, and then we also include the existing home on the Toole property.
So those equate, here's just summarizing. This is the same as the previous slide, just in a different format, in a tabular format. We've got 123 plus 38, and they all access right now at 116. So that you're going to see several of these diagrams, and the lines represent the color represents which development they're coming from, and the arrows represent where their access point is. So right now, Winfield Ridge only accesses from 116th. Similar, Southeast 85th Lane accesses from 116th. Now with the new development, then we add 10 new homes. I know there's 11 there, but there's, as Erin just mentioned, there's 1 existing, so it's 10 net new homes for 94 daily trips. And there's also Voyager 1 and 2, which are under construction. Those are single-family homes that will connect through 114th Avenue Southeast. So those are 2 new homes for 19 daily trips. So that totals 29 total homes for 273 daily average trips. This will be on the website. If anybody, I see people taking pictures, this will be on the website. Or we can always email it too. So then again, taking that this number here, the 273, just comparison of existing to future. Existing is the 123, and this is just South 85th. So the Southeast 85th Street, it shows a 0. That's because currently it has its own access point. So this future, it shows the 38 versus 0 because it's combined. So it's now on, if you're at Southeast 85th Street, you have the total of potentially 273. But you'll see now that these arrows go both directions. And that's the crux, is we don't know which way they're going to go. Larger developments have when there's a development that generates more than 10 PM peak trips. So here it says 94 average trips. So that would be, typically your PM peak is 10% of that. So that's below 10. It's close, but it's below 10. So they were not required to do a trip generation study. And what a trip generation study is, here's an example that was done for the Lee Bima, and it takes all the trips coming from the new development, and using a traffic model, it estimates where those trips are going to go. So on Lee Bima, for instance, it says for all the trips coming into that development, 55% are going to go to Cold Creek Parkway to the north. 10% are going to go out Golf Club Road to the east. 10% are going to go to the west on Cold Creek Park, on Newcastle Way. And this doesn't have, all the information isn't there, but then there's going to be some going to the south. So this is what this is the information we don't have, and this is one of the first recommendations we're going to have in the study, is to perform this kind of analysis to then predict where the traffic is going to go, and then we'll be able to measure where it actually goes. So that's the next steps here is for the applicant. Again, that's the developer. They're required to submit a traffic monitoring plan. One of the things that, this is not in the hearing examiner's conditions, but we're going to request that it includes an origin destination study. Staff has to review and approve that. And it cannot, the plat cannot achieve final approval without the mitigation plan being approved. Monitoring plan, excuse me. That's a typo. That should be monitoring plan. And the plat approval occurs once all the public improvements are complete. So right now they are constructing the public improvements, meaning the water, the sewer, the curbs, the streets, the stormwater facilities. So once those are done, then the next step is to come and get final plat approval. And once that is done, then they can start building new homes. But they cannot cross that step until the monitoring plan has been approved. Any questions on that? So what?
Do you want to take questions now or wait to the end?
I mean, either way, maybe, I only have a few more slides, maybe just burn through those and then we'll.
Let's wait, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So what about a gate? It's certainly a potential solution, but at this point it's premature for two main reasons. One, we don't know what the traffic study is going to show. It may show, sure, you have to do it. Or it may show there's no appreciable cut through traffic and it's overkill. And then any steps that, when I read the condition, the applicant has to pay their proportionate share. Any action taken before the study is concluded would be at the city's cost. There's also, the next slide will show, we took a closer look at this, and the turnaround requirements affect where a gate is feasible. And then just two of the things that it delays emergency response, a gate, even if they can click it. And then you'll see that it could concentrate trips to the 85th Street access. So with a gate, this shows a proposed gate location would be at 113th. And the reason is that I'll look, my mouse will show up, but basically where the existing temporary turnaround is, where where Southeast 85th turns north to 114th, there's no location there for the tool side of the development to have a U-turn. In the street there, the extension of Southeast 85th is too long to not have a turnaround. So the only suitable turnaround locations are highlighted there below at the corner where there's a stormwater facility. So in our analysis of this, the only feasible location for a gate would be shown there in the black. And in that case would mean that every one of the trips would have, the only access point would be Southeast 85th. And none would go to 113th. And I think that, yep, that's it. So now I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, who would like to go first? Deputy Mayor?
How much does the gate cost? Jeff?
I think we've estimated, we've never built one, so I've guessed maybe $50,000, all said.
And then
You
for
have to put in an electrical connection and foundations and,
okay, and for the developer to pay that, we have to kind of wait for the traffic study? Is that? what the
well, so the condition says that they have to pay their proportionate share as determined by the monitoring of any traffic calming improvements. So until the monitoring has taken place, then there's no justification or no proportionate share calculation available.
Who's going to do the monitoring, the city or the developer?
No, it would be a third party.
And who pays for the monitoring?
It does not say that, but it's assumed that it's going to be the developer.
So the developer pays for the monitoring and only if, after the results, that's part of the contract, right? We cannot force them to pay for the gate now?
No. They'd probably just laugh. If we asked them to put in a traffic circle before, and they initially said yes, but then they said no, which would have been a lower cost.
Okay, other questions? I see some hand who wants to raise your hand. Councilmember Sherlock, go ahead.
Deputy Mayor took some of my questions, so I'm trying to think. This is a hard one because I guess I do want to kind of ask whether it's our city manager or any director, maybe a little bit more history on what's happened, because I feel like a lot of the comments that we heard, that's not the information that I've gotten in some of them, and I just want to make sure we're all on the same plate.
Sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of, I won't say misinformation, but not correct facts being communicated. So, and I would defer more to Aaron because those came up during the development review process.
Yeah, and I was taking a lot of notes, so I'm happy to call out some specifically. I just want to make sure that I have all the correct information. So one thing was the idea that that the city discouraged cul-de-sacs. I heard that the original plans was to have cul-de-sacs, not have a through street. Can you explain why that didn't happen that way?
Yeah, so before, generally before you have a land use process like a subdivision, you have what's called a pre-application meeting. It's kind of this required but unofficial meeting where the applicant comes in, different reviewers, like we had, probably in that one, we probably had geotech, at least civil. Obviously the planners are there, fire, we have Coal Creek Utility District there. And I'm sorry, so we all look at the plans together. And they had proposed a design that had sort of multiple if I'm remembering correctly, it had 2 different cul-de-sacs and different length like a hammerhead in there somewhere and a different driveway. And regardless, the whole thing was not dimensioned to code. And so the comment was basically you need to get this development dimension to code for emergency vehicle turnaround.
Emergency vehicle turnaround and like garbage trucks and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay.
We did mention that I think a through street was mentioned during the meeting. However, it was not written up in the notes from that meeting. So, I think everybody assumed that it wouldn't work. And then they came back with their first application and it had the through street on it.
Okay. The other thing I heard was why sorry, I'm trying to find there's steep slopes, didn't think it was buildable. Why is it buildable now?
So, we have a piece of, I think the reference is to the steep slope on the site, if you want to go to the site plan. That works. If you, right there where Jeff is circling is a steep slope critical area, and a steep slope critical area can be graded so long as under certain situations under which this met the criteria, so long as anything that remains that's still a steep slope is treated as such. So the code allows the grading of a steep slope area.
Okay. One thing that I kept hearing tonight is, I think people were misspeaking. I don't think it was intentional, but I just want to say, I think some of the people left already, but I heard people say that, like, why is the city doing this or building this? I just want to be clear that the city is not building this. Developers are building this. Someone's private property was sold, and the city has code for how things can be developed. And we're where we are now because that code was followed. You all went out and talked to the hearing examiner, which is great. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. You came at the right time and you said what you wanted to say. And the hearing examiner actually heard you. He put in that language for a study, a traffic study, so that the developer would be on the line to make sure that there is traffic calming measures. And I don't know if anyone has said this quite this clearly, but that is a huge win. They don't normally do that. So I just want you all to know that, like, I know it's frustrating because you're not getting exactly what you want, but you have successfully gotten a good change for your community. And when it came to this council last year to move forward, we voted unanimously because legally that's what we had to do, because all the rules were followed. If we had voted against this moving forward, we would have been sued by the developers. So I don't think that anyone is trying to be mean to you or be unsafe for your families. This is the law. This is how it works. It is. I mean, there's nothing we can do legally to change this happening now. I will say that I am personally for moving forward with this traffic study, because I think that it makes sense to make the developers pay to make sure that there's significant traffic calming. I don't think that the city should pay $50,000 of taxpayer money for this one area. I don't think that that's how we should make decisions. And I've never made a decision up here like that before. I always try to think of the entire city and the entire city's taxes that we've collected and spent them appropriately. So I'm sorry if that's disappointing, but I'm just trying to take in all the information and make the right decision.
Councilmember Griffin, go ahead.
I have heard that the code didn't allow us to build a road because the hillside was too steep. Did the code change or something happen because of that? Or who did the grading to make it more to where it met code?
I don't know that the code changed. It may have between the time that Winfield Ridge was built and this plat was developed. But I think the assumptions about what could be built on the slopes that were existing changed.
Well, we were told that just now that there was some grading done which changed it to where it was feasible to go ahead and build there. Who did that? Did the city or did the developer? Who come in and changed it?
The grading? Yeah, the developer is doing the grading to the lot, but it was reviewed by two geotechnical engineers who reviewed our code and reviewed the site to look at it.
So the city did the grading?
There's been no grading that's occurred.
Pardon?
No grading has occurred.
You said just a moment ago that there had.
No, no, I
Or
did not.
would be, maybe, I don't know.
Would be, would
Okay.
be. So let me
And that would change it to where it met code.
let me reiterate, I think, what Aaron's saying. So this was this happens all the time. Well, for instance, Greencastle, you're gonna hear a lot about that behind the Highlands. That has been looked at multiple times over the years by at least 3 different developers have come into the city and tried to make that work and failed. So I think Tool is one of those where people have looked at it and, okay, because to make it challenging, there's no easy sites left anymore. And so sites that are more challenging, you have to put some investment into them to see if they're going to work. And that's how land development works. So somebody will look at this and say, that's too steep, it's not going to work, and walk away. Maybe they walked out there and used a P gun to take a level. Maybe they had an hour of a surveyor. But in this case, they put more capital, they did more upfront engineering and looked and said, hey, this can work. And then there's this provision in the code, apparently, that, and I say apparently because I'm not super up to speed on the development code, but that will allow what was previously perceived as a non-starter to actually be, there's a provision in the code to allow it to work. And that's what Aaron was mentioning, is that there's a provision in the code, and we can get back to you, the code it's black and white what it is. Now, did it change 2 years ago? Did it change 10 years ago? I don't know that right now. But the code at the time the plat was submitted did allow for an alteration of a steep slope, which allowed this project that's on the screen here to go forward. And that was, in the analysis that Aaron talked about, that was on a paper analysis that geotechnical looked at. Okay, here's the existing slopes. Here's what the developer's proposing to do, and does it match what the requirements in the city code are? And the answer was yes. Both the applicant's geotechnical engineer and the city's third-party neutral geotechnical engineer looked at that and affirmed that that was the case.
So for years, it wasn't feasible to build there, but then all of a sudden it became feasible.
No, that's not what I said. Some people thought that it was maybe not feasible because they did not necessarily do enough analysis to determine if it was feasible or not. A big distinction there.
Yeah, I would just add the fee, when we're talking about whether something's feasible or not feasible, it's generally not a code provision that makes it infeasible. It's the cost of dealing with a steep slope or whatever it would be, the cost to the developer to make it the way they have to make it for it to be feasible is a cost issue. And 20 years ago, it wasn't feasible for a developer to take on that cost, where the way real estate is today, they know what they're going to go make on these lots, and it makes it feasible for them from a cost standpoint to deal with the cost of this road.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's 2 elements. There's the risk tolerance of the developer. How much are they willing to put into it to find out if it's going to work or not? It's like mining. People that go in there and dig a couple shovels, don't find any gold, they give up. There's others that will bring in a whole crew and machinery, dig for 6 months, and then decide if they're going to give up. It's how much money you're willing to spend to see if that works out. And then there's also the cost of homes or the cost of gold. So like oil, they're fracking now because the cost of oil will pay for that expense to do that work. 50 years ago, 30 years ago, they wouldn't do that because the cost of the oil there's not the benefit to do that upfront expense.
Well, maybe if they're going to make all that money off of these lots, then they ought to find it feasible to handle a gate.
Well, sure, but that's not the world we live in.
Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Can whoever controlling the slides go back a couple to where I think where it talks about the gate?
That one or the other one?
I'll come back to this one with that one. Yeah, so I think, no, I appreciate the outreach from folks. So I do, I am in support of having some measure of traffic calming. I think a big element of this I think of too is just that part of the city, there's going to be, it's a lot, it is steep, right? We've all gone down 76th Street Hill. Like I have my foot over the brake the whole time and just kind of hover it right. And sometimes even then I still end up going faster than I intend to. So, you know, having that through street, and my colleague spoke to, you know, why in the process for the development going forward. So having that through street, I recognize there'll be folks coming down it and they'll probably end up going fast because they're going downhill. So I am interested in some form of traffic calming, looking at that. The thing that really struck me sort of looking at the materials that staff were prepared was that the anticipated timeline for these roads being open to the public is 3 to 4 years from now. So when I think of that and I look at this situation, and I think the word premature was used, and also I think a question I have, it says at the end of this that staff will present some additional considerations at the February 18th meeting and look forward to council's questions and comments regarding this plan. So I don't know entirely what that will entail. If you all would like to speak to that, please let me know. But I think I'm struck by right here is I think I'm looking at this and I'm taking a deep breath. Kind of like, I think this is a situation that feels incredibly urgent right now in this moment. But I would like to ask, I guess, the folks that are living in this neighborhood and coming to attend tonight, and I guess I would like to ask my colleagues up here too, to just from a human place, just I would like to have some sort of traffic calming, and I would like to also get the developer to pay for it, because I do not want us to pay for it. I think, Director Braun spoke to the element of, they're willing to take on developing here in what other developers considered a challenging place to build. So they're still going to make a profit on this. They will pay for it if we let them go through this process. And I guess the uncomfortable thing I'm asking for my colleagues up here and the people out there is to be okay with not something happening right now, with the understanding of, I won't speak for other folks, understanding of that that you are being heard, that I would like to look at some sort of traffic calming, and that might take a little longer than giving specific answer tonight. And I know that's not fun, I know it's not a good way to engage the government, but I want folks to, we have time, and I want to get the developer to pay for this and move forward with that, because I think when I look at the work we've done as a council, just at our last meeting, not approving sort of a $187,000 pre-design for a road that has more daily average trips, talking about cost, I feel like we need to be consistent when we're looking at something like this where there's an avenue for us to get it funded by another source, getting it funded by that other source. So it's an uncomfortable answer, and it's not a fun answer, but I guess I'm asking for folks to kind of have that mutual understanding and understand that we'll continue to engage in that process, and that is sort of some traffic calming here would be a goal.
Councilman Burford, is that council related? Okay, all right.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, so do you want to?
Before you make a motion,
Do you wanna speak?
if there's gonna be a motion, let everybody make comments first.
Here we go.
I still have comments if you're gonna make.
Oh, then you probably want to go.
Okay, let me make a few comments. So, First question, I'll ask a question. I was out there yesterday walking around for a while, and they haven't started connecting 85th Lane and 85th Street, right? That's still, they cut down all the trees, the fence is still up. The easiest solution here would be to just leave that fence up. Why do we have to combine those streets? I mean, you could take where the trees are, expand 85th Lane, and leave 85th Street alone, then you can have the new development, have a through street, and the neighbors can be left alone. Is that a possibility at this point?
No,
Why not?
because they have an approved plan that they're proceeding with. If we do anything to alter the plan, they will sue us.
Get some balls.
Well, please, no comments from the council, or from the audience, please.
So we can, I mean, if council wants to do that, we can certainly do that, but there's definitely significant risk, and I'm not sure what legal would have to say about that.
Well, the reason I ask that is because if the developer has to do less work, why would they object, right? Because if they're not going to touch 85th Street, and they're only going to do, they're going to widen something anyway, and they're just going to widen 85th Lane, then, I mean, it seems to me overall they're doing less work, they're spending less money. I don't know why they would object. My question is, because it just occurred to me yesterday looking, when you stand there and you look and you think both of these streets are wide enough, right? And everybody gets what they want. The city gets the through street, the new people down there, the old neighbors are left alone. And bingo, everybody wins. And then we don't have to worry about a study or a gate or anything. So Mike, is there a possibility at this point to come back with an answer? Because we don't need to make this decision tonight if we can have a potential answer on something like that. I mean, that's
Sure.
That's all I would ask us. And the other question, and I know there was going to be a motion, but I would recommend that we get some extra answers, such as the streets I just mentioned, and, you know, $50,000, it sounds like you just, weren't sure. We made that figure up, and we put a gate in Hazelwood, right? And we did do that.
No, we didn't do that. The city didn't do that. The developer did.
Well, there was a cost associated with that. We should be able to find out like a more accurate cost. In other words, two answers, what I would like to know, and just based on what I looked at, and, a gate, what is the gate cost? Like, let's get a more rounded number. I guess you can't make it exact because it's going to be, variable. But here's my main concern, right? So we're going to do a study, right? And we all know how these go, right? We've talked with developments before, and studies never come back and show anything wrong, right? They never do, right? Because the developer, the third party or whatever, they're together and they got a deal or whatever, and, oh yeah, the traffic, well, the threshold is X number per hour, but it's just X minus 1, and so you're good to go. So it's never going to be, there's never going to show a need for traffic calming. We all know the result's going to happen, and it's going to be years before we figure that out. So these neighbors are already suffering from anxiety about what's going to happen in their neighborhood, and now we're going to say, well, hang on 3 more years and maybe you'll get what you want. I'm not willing to do that. So I think that, that's just staring at those streets. You're standing there at 116, it's like, man, this is so easy. It would cost the developer less money than to rip that fence out, and the heights are different, so they got to do a lot of work and spend a lot of money. I can't imagine a developer would go, man, I want to spend more money than you're telling me I can spend. So that's a really key thing, and I think we could solve the whole situation if we could keep those streets separate, and everybody wins, seriously. And the new people moving in later, they're not going to care because they're going to get a street that's already there, and they're buying the house based on what the street is. The old neighbors, get to keep their cul-de-sac and their community feel. So, boy, I just think that's a winner. I hope that we can come up with something like that. And then I'd like to know before, and I hate to prolong this, and I'm sorry, folks, I really don't mean to prolong it, but if this is a solution that we can come up with that I wish I'd thought of earlier, frankly, then we could come back at the next meeting with that pieces of information and finish up this discussion. Would that be able to do it?
Sure, I can answer some of those questions for you. Would you like that?
Well, we talked about the 2 rows. We were going to find out what the developer had to say about it, right?
No. So you said, what would it take to do that? So they would have to do a plan, and Aaron, please step in. They'd have to do a plan alteration. They'd have to restart I'm not sure, I think that significant of a change would not be a plan alteration, to be a restart.
I think it could be done under an alteration, just depending on the amount of design, depending on if it affects the plat layout.
Right. Well, it would affect the plat layout because the roads, so Southeast 85th Place is a private road. So they would either have to make that a private road or dedicate it as public right of way. So then the reason they did it this way is because it's cheaper for them. It would cost more to do it the way you propose because then it'd be duplicating effort. You'd have two streets next to each other and they would have to be, the two partial streets would be bigger than one, what they've got proposed here.
And you still have the matter of the temporary turnaround that is supposed to be brought up to public works standards when it becomes a through street. So,
But there wouldn't be a turnaround, right? If 85th Lane goes right down the hill.
right,
And then, you know, they get the full through street. And 85th Street is already exists. We wouldn't need to change it, right? We don't have to do any, if we're not gonna touch it, we don't need to do any work to it. We don't need to change it. It's been fine for 25 years or whatever the heck it's been there.
Well, we can certainly ask them. They would lose this construction, because would we allow a plat alteration? Well, I mean, they'd have to stop and do the engineering. They'd have to stop their construction, do the engineering to come up with a new plan. First, they have to do the plat alteration. So the plat is the legal lots. That's been approved. Those lots, these are legal lots, right, with King County?
no, this is not recorded yet.
Okay, not recorded, that's right. Preliminary plat approval. So they'd have to have an alteration to the plat, and then they'd have to do the engineering revisions too, which, I mean, realistically, they could probably do that, turn that around in a couple weeks. But it's just a matter of would they want to, what would be their incentives to do that, other than us asking them to do it?
Well, they don't have to mess with they don't have to change the street heights to match the streets and do a lot of demolition. I don't know. Maybe maybe just doing the review, the cost of that, plus the less work they'd have to do, but pencils out for them. And we could certainly continue or convey to them the concern that, you know, the neighbors have, and that, you know, you're satisfying people that already live there, and you're still getting what you want. You're not going to change the number of houses. You know, there's still going to be 10 whatever houses. So I would appreciate it if we could
Maybe.
ask.
I mean, we'd have to do the density calculations. They may lose a lot, depending on, because then they'd be taking the lots here, you see 8, 9, and 10 off to the right of the screen. Those lots would then be shallower, because then the roadway would be there. They'd have to do an analysis to see if they would lose a lot or not.
We can always ask questions.
I'd appreciate that, and unless somebody else has an objection, because I want these people to get a safe neighborhood, and I still feel strongly that a gate is the solution. But if we can have alternative B, and we should know what the cost of that gate is, because I hear everybody saying they want this to happen, but they're worried about the cost. So we should have an exact cost, or pretty darn close cost on the gate, right?
Sure.
Maybe it'll change some minds, because our job as a council, so the thing about this neighborhood is we're not, by putting in the gate or doing something at this neighborhood, we're not altering what's happening, you know, 2 neighborhoods away or across Cold Creek. Or we're taking care of a unanimously united neighborhood, and we're only affecting their neighborhood. So this decision is, and that's why we're here, that's why we're up on this council, is to keep the neighbors safe and do what the neighbors that what we work for want us to do. So let's, you know, I'm sorry, I know we wanted a decision tonight, right? But, yeah, in a second. But I personally would like to see those 2 answers come back. So I've hogged the floor long enough. Go ahead, Councilman Quick. Yes, go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm sorry. If you did that, then you don't have any, they don't have to do the calming. It goes away. There's no calming on it, because the streets that you put the calming on is already, that would be taken care of, so you wouldn't have that expense. So, and you said the developer would do the calming, which means we'd have to wait a long time to see if we're gonna wind up with a gate going that way.
Last meeting, we kind of changed course on something that happened earlier. What I'm about to say, we might change course from, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. I hear everything you're saying about the alternative, like solution Z or whatever that would be, kind of a creative compromise type solution. I'm wondering if this is what I'm about to say is a compromise. A compromise is when you kind of give in, you know, each, you know, I want pizza, you want macaroni, so we kind of make a macaroni pizza. You kind of get half what you want. Not long ago, I watched Mrs. Doubtfire. You seen that movie? Robin Williams? I was crying at the end. Mrs. Doubtfire. It's a story about this kind of dorky dad, can't keep a job, and loses his situation with his kids. And so he dresses up like a house or a nanny to try to spend time with his kids. And he just bends over backwards. And it's heart-wrenching, because at the end, you know, everything goes sideways, and he walks off in tears, and Robin Williams there, and you know, you're there, what's going to happen? And at the end, Sally Field does an amazing job. She and Robin Williams figured out, and at the very end, it's the door opens, and because the mom and dad got together and talked to the attorney, they redid the contract, and so the Robin Williams can see his kids, and it's a beautiful ending. And so I'm crying there at the end going, man, that's beautiful. They really figured it out at the end. I'm wondering if you back there holding up that sign for the past 2 hours are kind of like our Mrs. Doubtfire. What you're asking for, I'm not saying because of the kids, I'm talking about, is what you're asking for something that would take a compromise? Where we both feel like we're giving something up? Or is it kind of like the end of that movie where everybody's happy? Let me explain. First of all, I'm sorry this is on a night when all your friends are out of town. I know that Hazelwood is out. So this place would probably be packed if it wasn't for the timing on this. And I'm scared to see if this goes sideways tonight, what this place will look like a month from now. It'll probably be packed. I had somebody call me up yesterday saying, Jim, you make decisions based on facts. You're not up there to be emotional. You're not Buddy the Elf when you're on the council. You're there to make it based on facts. So listen to the facts. Don't give in to your heart here. So I want the facts. Fortunately, your little boy handed me this, which is helpful with facts. And as near as I can tell, through all, like, Ari's questions were perfect. Like, what about this? What about that? I'm sorry, Councilmember Sherlock. I got in trouble for saying that. Councilmember Sherlock asked the right questions. What's the story? What's the history? Through all the, it was 2 cul-de-sacs, and then they did a pre-application meeting, then it became a connected street, all that back and forth. At the end of the day, they're connecting the streets so they can have fire trucks go through, right? It's for safety, it's for connected streets. For if there has to be, cars going through there because there's a fire. I get that. That makes perfect sense. It's code. I don't want anybody dying because their house burns down because there's a fire truck they can't get to them. We have a fire truck just, last Halloween, there's the gate that I have to go, when I go down to Safeway, my son and I scooter past this fire gate every time. I can't drive through it, but we scooter and bike past it every time to get down to Safeway from Olympus. So I know what a gate does in terms of my own commute and in terms of the way it affects my connectivity between the Hazelwood neighborhood and the Olympus neighborhood. I go by one all the time. So thank you for pointing out that the gate is there for fire trucks, and that's the end of the reason why it was put in there. And the hearing examiner said, look, here's what I want. I want a study. I want to figure out if there's an appreciable difference in traffic before and after this connected street. What's 12 times 11? Go. Can't do it, can you? Know why? Because you use your computers, your phone, your cell phone for that. Nowadays, I don't know where anything is because you know what? I just put it in my phone. My phone tells me where to go. And you know what my phone tells me? The quickest damn way to get there every time. You know what's going to happen when the street goes in? Google's going to find it. It was the funniest damn thing. When you put in that gate, Google didn't know it was there, and people kept on trying to get to my house through that street, and they had to go around. They got pissed off at Google, so Google eventually fixed it. And I think in the report in the agenda, it points out that we're going to do a traffic study for 3 to 4 years after the route, quote, the route becomes discoverable on apps like Google Maps. So what do you think is going to happen when Google Maps has this route on there? It's going to tell people you don't have to drive all the way down 116th, hang a right down that windy road that Councilmember Charbonneau referenced. You can cut in front of these people's houses. So obviously there's going to be a ton of traffic going by their houses. So is it overkill to put in a gate? I think that was the word Director Bronze has used. Would it be overkill? Well, depends on what you're looking at. And the cost, what would the cost be? As near as I can tell, this says, quote, the applicant shall prepare a traffic monitoring plan. I agree with Director Bronze. I think that means they pay for it. What does one of those studies cost for 3 to 4 years? I bet you it's a lot more than a gate. It's my guess. I bet you if we came to them, just like Mrs. Doubtfire came to Sally Field at the end of the movie and said, hey, how about this? instead of spending your money on a traffic study, you know what would be really great for your own property values of the homes you're selling? You know what would be really great for the neighbors that you're selling homes to and the neighbors that are here already? Let's let the let's let the fire trucks go through, but let's just have a temporary gate there that goes up and down if fire trucks go through, or if Jeff's, snowplows go through, but it's not gonna let people use it as a thoroughfare to get through constantly and risk these kids' lives. That's my 2 cents. What's that note say? I'm just curious what I missed. Did I forget something? So that's my thought. I understand what the mayor's saying. I get his position that, maybe there's a plan C, there's with the gate, there's without the gate, and then there is what he's proposing. What I'm gonna make a motion tonight, as soon as I'm allowed to, is to do what I don't think is a compromise. I think it's a reasonable, sound solution to what we're gonna be seeing over and over and over again. We didn't have this 20 years ago because we didn't have phones that told us where to drive. But now when you put the route to go from my house down to Dino's, it's gonna tell me to drive by their street. I guarantee it. That's what it's gonna tell me. It's gonna tell everybody else that drives from Coal Creek Parkway down to 405 to go by their house. I do not need a 3 to 4 year study of cars driving by their place to tell me what is already clear. My friend said, Jim, don't do this based on emotion, do on facts. I've looked at this over and over and over again. I do not want to do this based on her crying back there because she's scared for her children. It's just pains me that you're having to go through this. And I know you and your friends are going to be back here next month if we screw this up. So I want to propose a motion that I don't think is a compromise. I think the developer will love it. It's going to save them money. It's probably going to make them money. It's going to bring in more tax base to the community because the homes will be more valuable. There's all sorts of reasons to do this. So when you tell me I can, Mayor, I'm going to make the motion. And if nobody seconds it or votes for it, I'll be astonished.
You can make a motion anytime you want. I'm going to read the motion that's in front of me from this piece of paper. Why don't you come up, sit up here. Kids, you can come up, it's okay. I want you guys to be up here when we pull this off. I move to direct staff to install a fire gate at the optimal location on Southeast 85th Street, west of 114th Avenue Southeast, to block through traffic on Southeast 85th Street. The fire gate will be permanently closed once the tool development is completed. In addition, signs that say not a through street will be installed immediately at the intersection of Southeast 85th Street and 116th Avenue Southeast, as well as the intersection of 113th Avenue Southeast and Southeast 86th Place. That's my motion. Can I please have a second?
Second.
Can I have that, please, so I can read it? Let's, come on. Yeah, please stay back from the council. Thank you. We love you, but it's protocol. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to direct staff to install a fire gate at the optimal location on Southeast 85th Street, west of 114th Avenue Southeast, to block through traffic on Southeast 85th Street. The fire gate will be permanently closed once the tool development is completed. In addition, signs that say not a through street will be installed immediately at the intersection of Southeast 85th Street and 116th Avenue Southeast, as well as the intersection of 113th Avenue Southeast and Southeast 86th Place. Councilmember Quigg, do you want to add anything to your motion? Deputy Mayor, you want to add anything? We'll take some additional comments. Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I think this was well-intentioned, but just a mistake. The study itself would not take 3 to 4 years. The point that I was mentioning was that it would be 3 to 4, the study would occur when the roads are open to the public right away, and the study would actually begin even before then, and it would start. Excuse me. And then the study would start to occur currently, and then it would undergo, I'll just read it verbatim. What is the timeline for the study? The timing of the monitoring will need to be partially completed now to gather existing conditions, and then again once the roads are open to the public. Can you please not make hand motions and let me speak? Just out of respect, can you please?
Councilmember Quigg, please quiet while he's talking. Thank you.
So yeah, the completed now to gather existing conditions, and then again once the roads are open to the public, constructions of new homes is mostly completed, and the route becomes discoverable. on those apps, which is something folks had expressed. Staff anticipate this, referencing the roads being open to the public, could be as long as 3 to 4 years from now. So you wouldn't be subject to 3 to 4 years of an ongoing study before decision is being made. I just want to point that out. I think that's relevant. And look, I think I'm personally going to vote no on this, but that's not me ignoring you. That's me recognizing we have 3 to 4 years before this is at your doorstep, and this is me trying to be patient and barter for a better deal, quite honestly. And I hear you. I have said on the record, I support some level of traffic coming here. I think a lot of folks support some level of traffic coming here. I don't want to make a decision that is emotionally charged. I want to make a decision that gets us the best deal and use things we have like time to get that best deal for all of us with the taxpayer dollars. So I see you, I hear you. Yeah.
Mayor, if I can.
Go ahead, City Manager.
I'm going to suggest to the council this is not an appropriate motion. This was not contemplated for action tonight. It was contemplated as a discussion and was originally on the planning calendar as a study session. And due to the lack of a big agenda, we put it on for general business. But there's no action contemplated. We did not notice action to the public.
Okay. I'll take one more comment then. Go ahead, Councilmember Burford.
Yeah, so, we are here. We represent all the Newcastle residents. We also represent you. We see you, we hear you. Also, how did you get that data? You said it takes 3 to 4 years to finish study. Can you show us where? So if it's going to take 3 to 4 years, I don't want our neighbors to suffer. But if it's like Councilmember Charbonneau said, it's clearly stated it won't take that long. So at least I want to get a clear answer. 3 to 4 years, as you stated? Or, like Councilmember Charbonneau stated, I want to know this clear answer. Also, we want to save our taxpayers' money. Just voted down for that road widening project. This is $50,000 for the gate. So please, Councilmember Quigg,
Okay.
please
Well, we're going to
explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Burford. Based on the city manager's advice, I'm going to disallow the motion. We're going to bring this back when we can talk about it as an action. And frankly, we need more numbers. We need more information. We need the price of the gate. We need to know whether the street can be divided like it is. I understand the frustration from council members and public, but we're not putting this off for the next 10 years or whatever. We're going to come back as soon as we have those answers. So the city manager will let me know when we have the answers from the Public Works Director or the Community Development Director on the points we asked about, and we will bring this back to the agenda as quickly as we possibly can. And the motion can be reintroduced at that time. This won't be very long in the future. And again, neighbors, I apologize that we don't have your decision tonight, but we do need to get this additional information, and we will come back as soon as it's possible. City Manager, is that acceptable? Okay, we're not going to have any more discussion on this tonight.
One question.
What?
Could we go ahead and get the developer to look into what the mayor just suggested?
I just asked them to do that. They're going to do
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add the caveat that the developer can tell us no.
Yes, I understand that. Yes. Okay. Next up on the agenda is additional public comment. I'm encourage people to come to the podium if you signed up on the paper. We'll give you 3 minutes to talk like we did earlier. State your name and neighborhood and hear what you have to say. Okay, first up is Debbie Webb.
Mayor and council, I want to commend you for the good financial report we heard today, and also commend our chief of police and his staff for the improvement in crime in our city. That's all.
Thank you, Debbie. Kim Lane.
I want to thank you guys for your service here, because it's an effort to come here and deal with all these tough issues. And there's some very tough issues, and I kind of support Mayor Rob's initiative to try and negotiate something or find a place for a gate. I think that there's probably a solution out there that will fit everybody, and you can find it, I'm sure. Having done some real estate development myself, I could see these kind of things before. The other thing I'd like to mention is that the statistical analysis of the crime appears, I haven't seen it, but it looks like the trend is going way down. And I know there was an emphasis on public safety last year, and I didn't know if there's an analysis for causation for the trend to go down. I haven't seen anything like that. Is it increasing patrols? Is it increasing visibility? Is the flock cameras, you know, maybe, whatever it is, if we can maybe determine causation, we can see some more of that. That would be really good to find out. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ken. Lissa Johnson?
First off, it's page 64 of 67, second paragraph in, where it says staff anticipates this could be as long as 3 to 4 years from now after construction vehicles leave. So it will be open during then, and we will be suffering. Second, I also, Mayor, approached the staff with the suggestion of keeping the roads separate multiple times and was told, no, we can't do that because those streets won't meet city code. Then they proceeded to grant variances for the project, such as rolling the stormwater code back to 2009 to allow the project to happen. Don't shake.
Let's not have that dispute.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry. The staff also knew how upset we were. I went through the proper channels. I talked to Tyler almost daily. I have so many emails in, and when they presented to you guys, nothing was mentioned about the huge upset that we all have. I thought we were doing it right. If I knew I needed to be here, I would have been. But I didn't know. I thought I was doing this right. I had talked to Councilmember Sherlock at a Christmas event, and she said, email the city, but none of them. You guys hear me. I know you do, but no one at this table stood up for me. This is not right. Something else that no one mentions is the on the other side of Voyager project, the 53 houses, 44, 53 that are being built, they'll also all use our access. And that street's gonna run through the Voyager project into our neighborhood. It's huge. So that shouldn't be considered like, maybe I'm not making sense. I don't know. During the pre-meeting, that was also another chance for the city to tell them, if you can't meet the dimensions, then you have to do less lots. I just feel like so many lines were blurred and dimensions, everything's approximate, and like the mayor had said earlier, every single study, things come in right under the 9 trips, but then 10 was mentioned in the agenda. It's just, we need to take a closer look at what's happening. We do, because I feel like this project was railroaded. I really appreciate council, every single one of you addressed me tonight, and I really, really appreciate that. I do feel hurt, but we can't wait, because my child, they're worth more than $50,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Lissa. Director Bronze, can I get a clarification? So Heemstra will not connect to 85th Street, is that correct?
It'll connect to 114th Street, which connects to 85th.
The Heemstra property will?
No, the Voyager.
Just the 2 homes for Voyager.
Well, but then when they develop, they will punch through. It aligns to the 114th and Heemstra.
It's only if it subdivides.
Yeah,
They're
if
not
that, right.
subdividing that
Not currently, but in future,
There's no
that's a
application to
possibility.
do that.
All right, well, our comp plan is going to be hopefully addressing that. Okay. All right, next up, Sarah Goodman. Yeah.
That was on the screen before,
Oh.
right before
Yeah, bring the screen up, please.
Thank you. So if you could just go to the last image that you had up at the very end there. Thank you so much. Okay, so, that's the perfect one. Thank you so much. So where the green is?
Sarah, could you talk into the mic,
I'm
please?
so sorry.
Thank you.
I'm like pointing. I need like my clicker and my pointer like I use at work. So where the green is, where it's like the two lots there and the road that goes through, that is marked to be a through street from Hemstra through Voyager, which is two houses on either side. Then it will connect to us, and then people are just going to go down that street. So I think as you take into account these numbers, Hemstra needs to be part of this equation, because Hemstra is 50 homes. That's 100 cars if they don't have teenagers. And if they have teenagers, a lot more cars. So I just feel like we need to see the full picture. And I said in one of my emails that I sent to the council, you know, our little neighborhood is surrounded right now by all this development. And I just feel like, you know, it's closing in, and maybe we're like Horton Hears a Who if we're thinking of analogies, right? We're like, help. And I know you hear us. It's great to be heard, but we want action. I don't want to be heard anymore. I want people to take action and do something for us. That was the main thing I wanted to call out, because Voyager 1 and 2 are small pickings, but Hemstra is, and all those people, why would they go out to 116th, take a right, go down to May Creek, take a right, when they can just come down our road and zip right down? So that was all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Jeff Johnson?
All right. This time I have a couple notes. I guess on the location of the fire gate, I guess my question is, why couldn't that be put where the cul-de-sac is currently? To me, that would be the logical spot where the two divide, and then would stop people from speeding and going down the steep slope area. The gate cost, obviously we gotta figure that out. Like, I don't know, maybe if it's not a crazy number, could residents pitch in if we had to? That's what it comes down to. It's ridiculous, but yeah, again, I guess if they're gonna do a traffic study, I feel like it needs to incorporate the surrounding roads that are gonna be connected. To me, it's ridiculous to do a study on just our road or that road if you're having two new houses there and then connecting to 50 houses all together. Like, not just the cut through, but those as well. I don't know. I feel like you probably could have forced the builder, if you guys got a proper presentation up front with the public's concern and looked at it and thought about it. I know you guys don't have time, 40 hours a week to do this stuff, and looked at it. I think the builder could have been forced to do more, or a different type of situation. I like your idea, if that works. I think that would be another potential solution if you kept them separate. But the other neighborhood would still have the through road concerns that we have. It would just be only on them, unless there was a gate. On the steep slope, I know the code, even though you guys don't. It's 20 feet elevation change. So it says there, all the paperwork says that we estimate the elevation change to be 15 to 20 feet. The code states you cannot grade if the elevation change is more than 20 feet. I don't have my notes there, I just know that off the top of my head. So, let's see here. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, at least I feel, maybe it's just me, that I kind of feel that the city workers want it a certain way. Stating that, you know, there's no way the builder will do this. It'll never happen. Like, I feel like people are supposed to be neutral on this stuff, or give their opinion. If you guys ask, what do you think they might do? I don't know. It's a little frustrating. You know, also I think the fire gate would alleviate crime concerns with cut through to 405 and that kind of stuff, with seeing some of those stats tonight. I think that's probably about it, I suppose. So, not as orchestrated as I wanted it to be, but just wanted to go over a few points. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Anna Evans.
Can you guess what I'm standing here to talk about? I just have a few, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I know that, you know, we all have families, we all have concerns for safety. This is not a new issue for any of us. I do feel that the city planners and the people that were in charge of giving correct information to the city in order to be given the correct information to be able to make a informed and a good decision for what's best for our community did not happen here. I feel that there was, not that I feel, there were, you know, a lot of concerns that we brought that were completely ignored. We asked for studies, we asked for to have proof of the environmental studies, to have proof of the grading, to have all of these different things. You can scowl, but we asked. My question is, in the beginning, when we asked for all of these different studies, why we were ignored, or we were given kind of a study that didn't even actually address our concerns, like the traffic, where there was a box put out where the kids could like ride their bikes over and it would just increase the numbers. I mean, that's not a traffic study. It was just ridiculous. And I feel like each step of the way, it's like, well, give them this and then they'll be okay. Give them this and this will shut them up. Our goal is to work with our city. We now are up here having to relentlessly, constantly say, listen to us. Find a new way, please. Our kids depend on you. Our safety depends on all of you, city planners and council members. This is what you are elected to do or appointed to do because people trust you. They trust your expertise. They trust your systems, your values, your connections, whatever it is. We trust you to look after us. And when you ignore us or scowl, that is kind of a spit or a slap in the face of why we have you here, why you've been trusted to sit here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. That concludes our second public comment. We're only taking sign up, please. That's it for public comment. So public comment is closed unless there's somebody online that had already picked. No? Okay. Next up on our calendar, we have an executive session. So there will be an executive session this evening to discuss with legal counsel pending or potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 paragraph I. Executive sessions are closed to the public pursuant to state law. We will convene into executive session at 9:28 for 15 minutes. And we invite city manager, public works director, city clerk, and acting city attorney to join us. We will return to the city chambers in 15 minutes.
The council intends to return at 9:50.
All right. Okay, we have returned from an executive session to discuss with legal counsel pending or potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 paragraph I. We have returned from the executive session. We did not make any decisions at the executive session, no votes or no decisions. So now we will continue on with our agenda. The last thing is the planning calendar. City manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. For the March 4th meeting, the main items will be the first budget amendment for 2025. That will be a housekeeping budget amendment, as Director Chambers discussed earlier. We also, it would have been a study session item, but again, if we want to use the general meeting for it, we want to present our information and proposals on a facility use policy. And so those are the main items for March 4th. As a part of getting the first budget adjustment done for 2025, we also hope to be able to have the sustainability model updated for you, and we will plan to have it available that evening. And the council, we'd welcome discussion. We can walk through assumptions there, or we can walk through assumptions and decide to bring it back, or whatever the council would like to do with it. But we want to have it available so that you have it. We'll send it out to you so that you have the Excel spreadsheet and you can play with it. And we can walk through that individually and all of that. But we want to make sure it's available to you as early as possible and that you have the opportunity to discuss it as early as possible.
Anybody object to having the facility use policy in the regular meeting? Anybody dying to start early? No? Okay, so we'll do it in the regular meeting, city manager. One thing I would like to ask the council, we need to start thinking about town halls. We talked about it in our planning meeting. Last year we had 2 town halls, one in May, one in September. I think, any objections to having 2 town halls again? Anybody? Everybody, thumbs up? Okay, so the first week in May, how's that for everybody? Any day of the week anybody's hankering to have? We did it on a Tuesday last year. There was some concern that people didn't show up, so the second one was on, I think, a Thursday. So what's your thoughts? In place of the regular meeting, do we just move it to a different day?
By raising our hand, or how do we do it?
Yeah, just go ahead. Informal.
Here's my 2 cents. We actually had a conversation like this with my team today. I had this little cool, actually, Aaron, was it you that showed me that little tool that you can put when you want to meet? Was it you? There's like an app you can go to and you put the times. You're the one that sent that to me, right? It's the damnedest thing. It works like a charm. The planning commission, we would all go and Aaron would say, okay, we want to meet this week. And Charlie would go in and put days. And Scott would put his days and I put my days. Here's my 2 cents. I don't know why we just can't ask people, when do you want to meet? Because invariably there's somebody who points out, hey, it's the Super Bowl. You shouldn't do it at this time. You know what I'm talking about? Even though we're the smartest people on the planet, I don't see why we couldn't just say, hey, people, we got a couple dates, and then throw it like on Amy George's whatever, site thing, and then ask people to chime in which day works better for you. That's my 2 cents. That's what we do, is just ask people that are involved, ask the stakeholders, as they called them, and let them vote for when the meeting is, as opposed to us saying, well, I've got my dog groomer on Sunday, so can we do it on Wednesday? I think we should ask the public.
It's actually pretty straightforward. That would be a council regular meeting, so we'd be here anyway. So we can either do it on that night or we can do it on another night. So we'll plan on the first week of May, and next meeting, people will say Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, right?
Okay. Will the council also think about a topic or topics or just question and answer? We would love to have that feedback so that staff can prepare what we need to prepare.
I have an idea for a topic. I was just talking to city manager today about this. I would love to have a conversation about services that we provide and the level of service, and just we've never really gotten real-time feedback from the community about that. I think it might be a good conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we want to devote, obviously, majority of the time to answering questions, but sure, why not? I'm fine with that. Go ahead.
So again, we did a penny poll. I keep on referring to Aaron and the planning commission, because I have more experience with that than I do with the council. We had the penny poll, and there were these 6 jars that people put out, and people kept on asking about this topic that wasn't a jar, so we kind of adjusted the penny poll to include the topic people kept bringing up. I'm not saying I don't like level of service, Councilmember Sherlock. I think that's a great idea. I'm guessing it'll be a clear winner. Again, just like I said on the scheduling, asking people what they want, I don't see why we couldn't ask people, what do you want to talk about? And we could put some ideas out there, but then have an other category and just go with the top 2 or 3 choices they make. Maybe it's, parks, trails, and safety, or taxes, water slides and cotton candy. I don't know what it is, but I'm just saying, give the people what they want. It's their town hall. So even if I wanted to talk about, trails, if people don't want to talk about trails, we won't talk about trails.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the topics at the next planning meeting, but first week in May. Okay, anything else? Anybody? City manager, anybody?
So have we talked about the planning calendar as in what we're doing in the next meeting? Or is that something that we discuss later?
We talked about the next meeting. He mentioned what that was.
No, I know, and I was trying to ask about it, but I didn't want to interrupt. Because you mentioned we're going to talk about maybe the sustainability model and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm going to plant this seed. We don't have to necessarily decide tonight. We're all tired. It's almost 10 o'clock. I think we owe it to there's going to be a lot of people here next meeting. To not have the issue they're all interested in on the agenda, I think would be a disservice to them. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, we can't put it on the agenda until we get the answers from the.
I don't know. Just my 2 cents.
But it's possible. Okay. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.